Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Guided Podcast. We are back again this week with Catherine Ann, our resident intuitive astrologer. And we are going to be diving in this week to shed light on the upcoming full moon in Aquarius that is happening on August 19th. So, Catherine, I am just going to turn it right over to you to dive right in.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. So, in one word, this moon is a lot, a lot. And it's not actually just the moon, it's just the overall energies of this day and even the week prior. It's just a lot. And so it did take me a little bit of time to kind of like weed out what we were even going to talk about because there's so much going on. So I'm actually going to kind of lay the foundation of all the things going on, and then we're going to like dive into what spirit really is guiding me to talk about, because there's just not enough time for us to talk about all of it, and I think it would be too overwhelming. So let's just start with moon in Aquarius. So Aquarius is an air sign, and so this moon typically would be more conceptual, more intellectual. The moon oftentimes connects with our emotions, and then Aquarius is more intellectual. So it's really almost like a disconnected or detached feeling to our emotions. We're not in that watery Cancer where you're just diving deep into the feels. This is more analytical. So just on that very surface level, Aquarius is more disconnected. And part of the full moon Aquarius really speaks to Aquarius, thinks about society and groups and the whole while maintaining your individual persona, your uniqueness. So Rick Levine, who's a very well-respected, well-known astrologer, what he says is the full moon Aquarius is a time to be as different as you can be. So flying your flag of personality and uniqueness is about the entire energy of a typical isolated full moon in Aquarius. So where this gets messier is everything else that's going on at the same time that you're feeling like you want to be just unique little you. So we have, so in a full moon, the sun and a moon are always opposite each other. That's what helps the moon completely light up. But this sun and moon are squaring Uranus, which is the planet of uniqueness and different and really that galactic otherworldly energy. That's Uranus. So we have this full moon already in this tense aspect with I want to be different. So I just think that's very interesting. And then if we were looking at it from a modern astrology perspective, the moon in Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. So it's in a tense aspect to its ruler. If we're looking at it from a traditional aspect, the moon would be ruled by Saturn, which also right now is in a tense aspect in another way. So either way we look at it, the phrase that kept coming up for me is this is a moon under duress. And I actually looked up what duress meant because that word came straight from spirit. And I'm like, what exactly are you trying to say? So duress is the act of using force, coercion, threats, or psychological pressure, among other things, to get someone to act against their wishes. That's pretty heavy.
So let me ask you a question because I'm seeing two different images as you're talking about this. One image I'm seeing is diamonds are formed under pressure, right? So there's a positive type of pressure. And then there's this concept of duress, which also the feeling I get from this is like, the way we find ourselves influenced by external forces, whether that's people, whether that's societal conditioning or, social norming, how do those things put the pressure on us to be true to our values, our beliefs, what we're really aligned with? Would that be accurate?
In both ways, absolutely. And if you think about, we talked the new moon of Leo about shining your light and how supportive the energy was to just be you and shine brightly. And then in this Aquarius full moon, where you want to just be you, no, unique as you can be, but it's this like pressure of, but that might be too weird. And Aquarius says, I'm going to be weird. I'm going to be me. No big deal. But we have all this pressure in other areas that is kind of cramping that independent feeling. So I mentioned we have the sun and moon squaring Uranus. We also have a very big transit that perfects on this same day, which is Saturn squaring Jupiter. So Saturn and Jupiter are in this 20-year cycle. And back in December of 2020, they conjoined. It was the grand conjunction, if anybody remembers this. They conjoined at 0 Aquarius. Now, what was so important about this is it was kind of like the bringing in of, you've heard about the Aquarius age, and there's a lot of conversation about when that exactly is. But this is definitely one of those moments that points to coming into the Aquarius age. Well, Saturn squaring Jupiter it's just a strong revisit or reevaluation of something that maybe was initiated at the beginning of that cycle at the end of 2020. So ideas that started coming, those little seeds, think of it as like a new moon, right? Where something's just getting started, even if it's just in your head. Now we're at this opening square of Saturn to Jupiter, and it's like, let's reevaluate this. What new ideas, what new philosophies have really birthed over the last almost 4 years? And how are we feeling about all of that? So where this adds another layer of this is just a lot of pressure and transformation is currently right now, Pluto is at 0 Aquarius. So Pluto is at the spot where Saturn and Jupiter met at the beginning of their cycle in 2020. So it's just another check the box of big energy. So that's a whole nother podcast on its own, but just know I'm going through the list of there's some big energies, right? Now let's add to this that we are in Mercury retrograde. So even people who don't know much about astrology, they hear about Mercury retrograde. They go, my computer's messing up, is Mercury retrograde, right? So August 19th, we're right in the middle of this Mercury retrograde, but it's just adding another layer of reflection and maybe frustration. That it's really often during Mercury retrograde that we feel frustrated because there's glitches in communication and technology, and things maybe just don't flow the way you would hope they would. And then we also have Mars is in Gemini. So Mars does not love being in Gemini, and it makes our minds very busy, because Gemini is ideas and thoughts and communication, and just there's a big birth of ideas because Jupiter is also in Gemini, and Mars and Jupiter are together. So it's really inflating that like busy mind, that restlessness. And there's more. So, I mean, I've already done a pretty extensive list of big energies, but there's more. We also have Venus in an opposition to Saturn, which is causing tension, most notably probably in relationships. Whether that's a romantic relationship or a friend relationship or a relationship you have with a thing, a something, in relation to something, but tension there. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. And that Venus and Saturn opposition is perfectly squaring the Mars and Jupiter conjunction. So these are called T-squares. We have 2 T-squares. We have the Sun and Moon square Uranus, and then we have Venus, Saturn square Jupiter, Mars. T-squares are indicative of challenge. They're a catalyst for, you can say they're a catalyst for wild success if kind of like used to their best potential. But what's more notable right now is that they're indicative of challenge. So this chart is kind of like challenge, 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 and more challenge. It's a lot. So that's where I started with this, right? It's a lot. So one thing I want to say about this time of the full moon in Aquarius is be easy on yourself. I don't think there's anybody that is going to escape the feeling of tension and pressure throughout mid-August. Not everything I've talked about activates everyone's charts, but something I talked about does. And they all are significant in their own right. And for some people, multiple of those things will really be speaking to their charts. So be easy on yourself. I also kind of want to say, you know, there's a way that we can prepare for times that are more difficult by setting ourselves up for success. This would be one of those times to do that. Don't overbook your calendar. Maybe meal prep. I just things where you just feel like there's the potential for overwhelm in this mid-August time. So setting yourself up to feel like certain things can be done by rote because you've already put them in place will ease that pressure a little bit. So let's go back to, now that I've said all the big aspects going on, let's go back to the theme that Spirit gave me. So one of the things that came up over and over again as I looked at each individual aspect was this word restlessness. So mental restlessness, emotional restlessness, just restlessness in general. And then another thing that kept coming up was this idea of insecurities. Insecurity in relationship, insecurity in, am I being who I want to be? Is it okay for me to be unique? And then overcompensating for those insecurities. We are still in Leo season. Leo is big and loud and bold. And potentially, if we use that in kind of a overcompensating way, could be really obnoxious and loud and egoic because we're feeling insecure. So the theme that Spirit gave me was for this full moon was restlessness and overcompensation for insecurities shift the collective consciousness. I
So
think that
can we dive into that a little bit more? Like, what is, because the way I feel what you're saying is, when we feel insecure and when we start overcompensating, I honestly feel like that is a function of feeling restless. It's almost like we feel like we should be doing something we're not doing, or we're overcompensating for those insecurities. And it is the manifestation of it is a restlessness.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you talked about the picture of the diamond, that's, the pressure creating the diamond, because the picture that Spirit gave me was a flower sprouting from the harshest conditions.
Mm.
So, that the desert, that cracked earth with this beautiful flower sprouting from it.
So wild that you're using that example, because what I just got flashed to with this was my time that I spent in Sedona. Sedona in and of itself can be a bit of a pressure cooker. Sedona will hold your feet to the fire. And what I remember was when I was leaving Sedona, I had this little moment of offering my gratitude and just listening for any messages that she had for me. And she said we had to put on the pressure so that you could shine brighter. And that's the sort of tagline I'm getting, like, through these challenges, through this pressure, it's so that we all can shine brighter.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to dive so much deeper into that as we move on with this, because Spirit gave me a very clear, what I'm going to call remedy to this energy, a place to focus to help us through what could be some pretty overwhelming energy.
Beautiful.
do want to talk a little bit about, in particular, the climate in the United States around this, because everyone knows that we are in wild political season right now. Not a topic that I'm well versed on or have much interest in going into. All I want to say is I feel like on a mundane level, this is a bigger picture situation. So in our microcosm of our life, there's pressure and tension and restlessness that is going to lead to a raising of our consciousness, sprouting this beautiful flower from the harsh conditions. But I think in the macrocosm, we're also in that experience. And so something just to be mindful of is restlessness in the collective messaging, restlessness, pressure, overcompensation of insecurities, all of that could be taglines to our news cycle. So I just feel like it's worth noting to be aware that we feel this in our little life, but this is also global energy, and to be conscious that this too shall pass, and that something beautiful is going to bloom from what looks like wild chaos. And I don't say that in the sense of like a literal wild chaos. I'm not making any predictions about that. I'm just saying the energy is tense and restless and overcompensating. So be mindful of the news stories you hear and really checking in with what resonates with you, and maybe even turning it off, because we're going to be feeling this energy so intensely within our own life. Do we really need to add the mouthpiece of kind of like the news story to what we're already going through? So just something to consider, because August is, yes, we've moved away from some of the beginning of the year energies that it created this catalyst for change, but we're still in the change, and change is not always comfortable, and people have opinions that you want to consider whether or not they resonate with you or not. So something to consider. So now let's talk about where spirit kept pointing me, because I really think this is the beautiful piece that at least I think for people who listen to guided and thinking about awareness and vibration and consciousness and how are we looking to better ourselves, this is where we want to focus. So there is something in the universe called the galactic center, and it is in my very layman non-astronomer language, like the center of our Milky Way galaxy. It is what our solar system revolves around. It's, I believe, a big black hole that we move around. In astrology, it represents a place in our charts where we have that most heightened ability for intergalactic communication, transhuman communication with outer worlds, expansion of consciousness, spiritual awakening, and that type of transformation. So it's like otherworldly transformation. So for those of you who listen to this that resonate with the whole galactic narrative, this is your place where you really will feel that. And even if you don't resonate with that piece of it, it's that idea of spiritual awakening and heightened consciousness. So the galactic center is in Sagittarius. Right now it's at 27 degrees. And the reason spirit kept pointing me to this is because this full moon is at 27 degrees. So the sun and the moon are at 27 degrees, and they are in harmonious aspects with the galactic center. We have one of them is trining and one of them is sextiling. So both of them are harmonious aspects with the galactic center. And then if you recall, I mentioned that the sun and the moon are squaring Uranus. Well, Uranus is also that higher consciousness, galactic, transformative energy, electric, higher, heightened awareness energy. So we have all of these 27s, and It just kept being brought back to me over and over again. Let's talk about the galactic center today, because otherwise we might get lost in the sauce with everything that's going on. So what we want to talk about is when we connect with the galactic center, we're connecting to this place of being open to possibilities, being open to downloads from spirit, being open to exploring beyond what we understand and what we know. So it's this space in our chart that connects us with the beyond. And when you're in this place of spiritual awakening and growing your consciousness, you're regularly connecting with beyond what you know and understand, right? Because that's the learning curve, is constantly taking that next step to expand your understanding in any form, whether you're on this awakening journey or you're in school. This place of expanding what you know and being open to new ideas is a really powerful place when we're in a state of pressure and tension, instead of getting kind of like crumbled in or pushed in. Like I keep seeing that image of the diamond that got pushed in. But if you can take your mind to, but I'm going to focus on how this is taking me to understand something I don't already know. This is going to take me to a place of possibilities. Maybe if you are the type of person that sits and meditates or takes that silent time to connect with spirit and nature, it's going to be a great time to receive downloads about what is really going on and what really matters in the bigger picture. Because the galactic center, we're talking bigger picture. And I think that with all of these planets in such hard aspects, it's not an escapism to look at the bigger picture. It's everything's always working out for me philosophy to look at the bigger picture, as opposed to, whoa, this is a lot. So what I wanted to talk about today is where the galactic center shows up in your chart, because for everybody it's in Sagittarius. It's going to be somewhere between 26 and 28 degrees in Sagittarius. So we're going to look at the Sagittarius house in your chart by whole sign, and how you can use that energy that you probably already recognize because it's in your natal chart, but how you can use that energy to look at the everything's working out for me piece during this mid-August time that is going to be very busy. The other thing, just to speak on with our new moon, full moon reminder, is that the full moon is a spotlight on an area of our life that we are being shown. We've gotten this far in the cycle. We're halfway through the cycle. Now we have this big flashlight. Is there something to pivot on to continue that growth cycle? So we're going to talk a little bit about where is there something that the light is being shown in your Aquarius part of your chart that says, is there a pivot I need to make to maintain my uniqueness, my sense of self, my unique identity, to stay my weird little self? Is there something that's being lit up there? And let's look at this galactic center piece of like the area to release the tension that we might be feeling. So we're going to start with Aquarius, because Aquarius is our moon. And so that means that the moon is lighting up the first house. And just as a reminder, I'm going through this as all the rising signs, setting Aquarius on the rising sign, but you can listen for your sun sign. If you don't know your rising sign, you can listen for your sun sign, still works. And you can listen for both and see which resonates more. So we're going to start with Aquarius. And this full moon is showing up in your house of you. So your appearance, your style, how you show up in the world. So is there something in that area that you're going to pivot a little bit, or the light is shown on it to say, do I need to make an adjustment to shine even brighter, to be even more me? And then where we're going to look at the galactic center is in your 11th house of groups and friends and allies. And what's really interesting about having the galactic center in this placement for an Aquarius rising is that Aquarius is the sign of groups. They're they have that societal mindset, the kind of what's good for we is good for me mindset is the Aquarius mindset. So having the galactic center in your 11th house of groups and we seems to go perfectly for me, that you are going to want to be connecting with people who share a vision for the future. So in your searching for everything's going to work out, connect with groups that have that same vision for the future, that align with what you think is what a better future looks like. Connect with activism or social causes or groups that promote spiritual growth or humanitarianism. That's a long word. That is where Aquarius is going to really find some relief from the pressures of this mid-August time and allow themselves to really be part of a group, shine their uniqueness also within a group. That's a very Aquarius feeling. Okay, so then we're going to move on to the sign that is going to feel it in the second house, which is Capricorn. So Capricorn is going to have this shine on their house of value. The second house, money, possessions, income, but it's value. What do we value as well? And so is there an adjustment that needs to be made to help us move forward to be who we are? As a Capricorn rising, I really feel this even as, so I just, used a lot of my resources for a big trip I went on. Are there some adjustments I'm going to need to look at from that experience? What do I value now more? What's really coming to light in that area? I think that's what's going to be lit up for me. But the thing that is going to be important for Capricorns in relation to kind of releasing that tension of the month is our galactic center falls in our 12th house, our house of dreams, intuition, psychic abilities. And we're really going to be encouraged to be introspective, lean on our spiritual growth, lean on connecting with our intuition, with our dreams, and what we consider our deep truth. So for Capricorns, this is a call to dive deep into your intuition and spirituality to support you through some of these harsher energies. Now we're going to look at Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, this full moon in Aquarius falls in the third house of neighborhood, communications, siblings, short journeys. I always say it's like the junk drawer. It encompasses a lot of things. And so it could be in many different areas for different people how this shows up. But some ideas would be, is there something in your neighborhood where you need to make an adjustment so that you feel like you can be more you? And the picture I'm getting is feeling okay to fly the flag that you want to fly in front of your house. And just being like, no, this is me. And it's okay for me to be different, right? And where for Sagittarius is really interesting, I didn't even make this correlation when I said that, is where the galactic center shows up for a Sagittarius is in their first house of me. And so it's about understanding that as a Sagittarius rising, you're really drawn to the different, to the unconventional, to explore. The Sagittarius is the traveler and the explorer because they like to experience new and different. And so this is leaning into that, I want to say like proclivity, right? A Sagittarius values culture and new and journey because they know that personal transformation happens through them experiencing that which is different from them. And so leaning into that as a Sagittarius will support you during this time. And I'm getting the idea of like, maybe you're not going to actually take a trip, but maybe you can plan one. Where's a place you want to go that really speaks to who you are and lean into that visioning? Okay, so we're going to move on to Scorpio, who is going to be experiencing this full moon in their fourth house. Fourth house is foundations, your family, your lineage, your ancestors, your home. And there may be areas where you are So if you have Aquarius in your fourth house, which is a Scorpio would have, you may not have always felt like you belonged. You may have felt like the black sheep of the family, odd man out, depending on how your family embraced your uniqueness. And so there's going to be a light that's shown on that area of your chart. And is there something where the light is shown on you really needing to embrace your uniqueness? And are we going to be processing some stuff around how that wasn't embraced or appreciating that it was? And then the galactic center falls in the second house of values and resources. So for Scorpios, we're really going to be looking at when you're feeling this pressure, this diamond pressure being put on us in mid-August, is to think about the deeper meaning of life beyond the material. So what do you value beyond material stability, beyond material wealth? And maybe lean into being creative about how you can acquire resources. So there might be something that you have an inspiration around that will be a better area to focus as opposed to feeling the pressure of heavy life around us. And I feel like I keep needing to say this isn't about escapism. It's about bigger picture and knowing that there's certain areas that you do a better job at seeing the bigger picture because that's where your galactic center is in your chart. So that you know already this is an energy that you were born with. So you know already how to lean into that expansion and that raising of consciousness in these areas. Okay, so moving on to Libra. Libra is going to be experiencing the full moon in the fifth house of children, creativity, pleasure, good fortune. And this is a really beautiful place to experience this full moon. It is Aquarius is an air sign, Libra is an air sign. It's going to flow really nicely for you. It's probably going to feel like you can find joy in these areas of your life. It's really going to light it up in a way that's free and flowing. And so a pivot might just be about leaning in to this, your unique way of experiencing this area of your life. You know, really, do you have a unique way of interacting with your kids and parenting, or do you have a unique way of having fun or being creative, and really leaning into that? And then when you're feeling the pressures of all these other heavy aspects that are happening, we're going to want to look at words of wisdom because this is about third house topics, information, knowledge, communication. And so lean into communications or words that are inspiring to you for expansion. And what they just dropped in was listening to some of your favorite teachers and their messages. So I know for me, one of my go-tos when I am kind of stuck in a negative self-talk, or just feeling kind of the weight of the world, I listen to Abraham Hicks, especially one of the rampages, because it's just this flow of positive, everything is going to work out. This is good stuff. And I need that input to help shift me. And I feel like that for Libra, that would be a really great thing to think about is who can you listen to? Or who can you talk to? Because this is about communication. Do you have a friend or a sibling or a neighbor where you know that when you speak with them, you feel enlightened or positive after that conversation? I do not recommend connecting with someone that's just going to sit and vent with you. That's not going to support your raising of your energy during this time. But those people or those experiences that are going to help you feel like, oh, I learned something new, or I've gotten a different perspective on how to see this, that's where you're going to want to go. Okay, so Virgo, this full moon is showing up in your sixth house of health, wellness, daily routine, work, health, health in the sense of not feeling well, illness. And so a Virgo may feel that this We talked about this a little bit in the new moon forecast as well, about how this is the time of the year, that month before we go into Virgo season, where Virgo is kind of cocooning. And so Virgo, you may be feeling a little low energy. You might be feeling like, just kind of like run down. And this full moon might shine a light on where you need to take better care of yourself. Whether it's literally taking some time off and resting, but it's about, where do you need to take care of yourself to reduce the stress in your life so that you can be you? Because this is an area being bogged down by too much going on. And so where can we relieve the stress so that we can, be our own unique self, in a healthy way instead of in an overworked way? And then the galactic center shows up for the Virgo rising in your 4th house of home and family. So what that means is, for you, transformation really comes through exploring your roots, your emotional roots, your ancestry, your family line, and that connection to ancestral wisdom. So I see this 2 different ways. I see this as, if you are fortunate enough to have a supportive and long lineage of family, grandparents that are still alive, maybe it's focus on visiting them and talking to them about their wisdom, as opposed to getting bogged down in the daily life and everything that's going on. Or if you don't have that opportunity, exploring ancestral wisdom in general, past life regression, going into the Akashic records, shamanic journeys, those type of healing modalities are going to really tap into foundational ancestral roots. And that's, for a Virgo, going to feel very healing and uplifting. Virgos are an earth sign. So I keep getting this image of digging down into the earth is something that is healing to a Virgo. And that's going to feel hopeful and optimistic, as opposed to intense. Okay, so Leo, you've been really enjoying this Leo in the sun time, and there's no denying that it's been a lot. And so even for our Leos who liked to be shining in the sun, it's a lot that you've had going on, and you may be feeling that has impacted your relationships. So your marital relationships, your business relationships, your one-on-one, your contractual type of relationships may need some tweaking through this full moon, because that's where the light is going to be shown. Where have they been impacted lately, and what tweaks do we need to make to get them into balance? And where the galactic center shows up for Leos is in the 5th house of creativity and romance. And so really leaning into your creativity. What ignites that fire in you for creation? So whether it's artistic creativity or some other form of creativity, where do you what makes you feel alive and passionate and expressing yourself? That's the area you lean into. So I keep thinking about, if you've had a really hard day and you are artistic, maybe go paint, maybe write, whatever that thing is that fuels that creative fire. That's what you lean into to release the tensions of the August energy. Cancer, we're moving into the 8th house for your full moon, which is going to shine a light on your shared resources, debt, taxes. You may find that this is a time where some adjustments need to be made in these areas. Are you going to be reviewing what you're doing with your stocks? I'm not a financial advisor, but this is the area where these type of things get lit up. Are you going to have a tax issue get lit up for you that you need to make an adjustment to? Are you going to have it's also the house of inheritance and other people's money in general. So these topics, a spotlight is going to be shown on them, and you may need to pivot or make an adjustment so that you can feel like you're moving towards the direction you want to be, shining your own light, being your own unique self. Now, where the galactic center shows up for the Cancer rising is the 6th house. And that is, we talked about this of, work and health and well-being, but it's also the house of service. So for a Cancer, being of service is where you find enlightenment. It's where you find that connection to spirit. And so our Cancers really have the ability to have a really strong understanding of the connection of mind, body, spirit. And leaning into that when things are tense is going to be helpful. It even makes me think of, what are your mind, body, spirit routines that you don't let go of them during the month of August? That's the place where you want to say, it's important for me to still get my massage or still take my walk in nature or drink my healthy green juice or whatever it is that you do that is your health and body routine. That's also going to be lifting your vibration and pulling you out of any of this heavier energy that's happening. So Gemini rising, you're going to be finding this full moon lighting up your 9th house of study, travel, spirituality, faith, religion. And so the question for you is, what's being lit up in your Aquarius house about, do you have that desire to get out of Dodge? Are you wanting to, travel internationally? Or they just said, or do you want to astro travel? So you may not have to physically travel, but if astral projection is something that you are capable of doing, maybe you're going to lean that way, right? Because it's about lighting up this area of what makes you feel it's like philosophical growth. So that's why travel's here, right? Because when you go to new cultures, you're growing your mindset. When you're diving into faith or religion or different studies, you're growing in your mindset. And so for Geminis, this is where this part is going to really be lit up for you to say, what do I need to pivot in these areas to keep being my unique self? And where you're going to want to lean into is in your relationships. So you're going to want to lean into those one-on-one connections with people. And because that for you is the space of going into higher consciousness. That is your space of awakening. So Gemini risings don't always seek traditional partnerships. It's not because it's an Aquarius house, it's something out of the ordinary is the energy for a Gemini rising in the 7th house. So with the galactic center there, you're going to be looking at wanting to have connections based on shared growth experiences or shared spiritual understanding. This is what really lights up that spiritual awakening and transformation for a Gemini. So this is where you want to lean during tough times, is connect with somebody that speaks to you in that way. So whether it's, a romantic partner, a friendship, or a client, connect. And even I would say it was spirit, right? Because this is a one-on-one relationship as well. Connecting with spirit. If you don't have somebody else in your life that can fulfill that role of shared growth and spiritual understanding, this is where you're going to really want to focus to release the tension of the month. Okay, we're almost there. So for Taurus, you are having this full moon in your 10th house, which is career, reputation, legacy. So you may feel some adjustments in your career sector. You may feel like I need to make a pivot in this area of life that has to do with, am I creating a legacy that's uniquely me? Am I working in a career that lets me be me? With this Aquarius house, it makes me think that the Taurus may want to look at, am I working in a field that speaks to the whole? The Aquarius, the we versus the me, right? So am I working in a space that maybe has a social justice slant in whatever way that speaks to you? And if not, is that where the pivot is, right? If you feel like you need to be doing something that has a bigger societal impact, this may be that time where you go, it's time for me to think about adjusting this. And then for the Taurus, the galactic center falls in the 8th house. And so it's interesting because one of the things about the 8th house, we've talked about shared resources. We've talked about finance, like taxes and debt and all of that stuff. But it's also the house of the taboo. So delving deep into what might be considered taboo subjects is something that the Taurus can do. And this is about like exploring the mysteries. So it's not, I'm going to find enlightenment through being deviant. That's not what it means. It's more about, maybe you have an interest in the occult, or maybe, you have some sort of modality or experience that dives into personal power, because that's also another thing to be thinking about with this 8th house. Leaning towards that is going to be the release for Taurus. And it's interesting because what I keep getting pulled to, because again, Taurus is an earth sign. And so it's funny, Virgo, where they really kept showing me about digging in the dirt. Taurus, I'm actually getting like plant journey, which typically not something I advocate. That's not my cup of tea, but it's that connection with earth. So maybe it's diving into the elementals. Maybe it's really looking into your connection with the fairies and the dragons and all of that type of stuff. Maybe it's plant journey. But that's where Taurus is going to find the release from the tension that August is building.
And when you speak to the plant journey, the other thing that I got around that is there's just a lot of wisdom in nature. And so sometimes a plant journey may not be, I think a lot of times we hear that word and we automatically think about psychedelics,
Right.
but actually part of plant journeying can also be just connecting with a plant and understanding what wisdom it has to offer you, whether that's from a health perspective, right? And in terms of what herb might be supportive of something within you, but also, what message does this tree have for me? What message is this flower sending me? So just to expand people's awareness around what a plant journey might mean, it could be all of those things.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you for that reframe, because that is very true. And with Taurus being an earth sign, their connection with nature is very powerful. And so moving into Aries, you're going to be experiencing this full moon in your 11th house of friendships, groups, community, hopes and wishes. And so what is being lit up is this area of your life around, are you connected with friend groups that allow you to be uniquely you? Because this is your Aquarius house, you need to be connected and still be your weird self. And Aries, who is very independent and very individual, needs to feel that they get to be themselves among community. It's a very, Aries are very, I'm not saying this in a derogatory way, but like all about me. Like I'm very important,
Like
right?
a
This
selfness, not a
a
selfish, but a selfness.
Yes. And so maintaining that sense of self within your friend groups is very important for an Aries. And what we're going to find in this full moon is that's being just lit up. And are you really connecting with the people that allow you to do that? Or are we going to look at maybe some adjustments to our manifestation so that we can come into alignment with that? And the galactic center for an Aries is in the 9th house. So where you really find that expansion and awareness and that raising of your consciousness is through opening your mind to new possibilities, to broadening your understanding of the universe. So this may literally involve taking a course that you just want to learn more about anything really, but an expansive topic might be exploring the universe, diving deeper into your faith, diving deeper into other cultures. Anything that expands beyond like, this is me, what is the rest of the world? That's where you grow in your level of consciousness. It's expanding around your immediate surroundings. That's what helps Aries grow. And so I think about this Aries that is ruled by Mars, and Mars is busy and in square hard aspects with Saturn and Venus, and its intense energy is being expanded by Jupiter. So there's a lot of like, it's not explosiveness, but it's just intensity that I feel like Mars could be feeling right now. The relief from that is, let's broaden our horizons. Let's focus on the greater world, because my little world might be feeling really harsh, or just the word I just want to say over and over again is a lot. It feels a lot. Whether that's harsh or not, it doesn't necessarily have to be harsh. It's just a lot.
Yeah. I think the message that I keep getting as you've moved through this, this discussion is a message that Spirit gave me earlier today, which was about remembering our humanness in connection with all of these astrological aspects, and recognizing that, within is a microcosm of the macrocosm. And with everything happening in the macrocosm, it's even more important to stay aligned within ourselves in the microcosm. And really remembering, I think this is where we give ourselves grace. We learn so much going through challenges, but I know even for me, I've been in a recent cycle of feeling like swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and a miss. And it's a lot. That's what I keep getting flashed to. It's like when we're in these learning cycles, and especially when Spirit is trying to teach us something in a really big way, we are in a place sometimes of swinging and missing. And we're always, it's not failure, but for lack of a better expression, it's like we're always failing forward, right? Because we're learning from what's not working, we're making these adjustments, and then we're trying again. And it can be a lot, but I think this is where, as you started the conversation, really giving ourselves grace, being kind to ourselves through the process, and remembering what they're saying now is really remembering that nobody feels 100% all the time.
That's so beautiful. And I love that you started with remembering that we're human. Because yet again, Spirit talking to you about astrology without realizing it. So Aquarius is really about humanity and recognizing our own humanity. And that, yes, we're individuals within this big collective, this human collective. And so, in spite of all of our differences, because we're all these unique expressions, we are one human collective. And understanding the bigger picture of that can be helpful when maybe you don't agree with what you're seeing, but knowing this is part of this human collective, and that compassion of, and it's okay that I'm not getting it all right. Like, I'm only human.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that they keep flashing me to in connection to what you just said is, and this is an analogy Spirit uses with me often because it really helps connect me to my own humanness, but remembering that we're all actors and actresses in this play of life at Earth School, and each and every single one of us is here to play a specific role. And so when we find ourselves maybe on a different end of a discussion or platform or position or opinion, we can remember that too, that, none of us are right or wrong. We are all just playing our respective roles. But I think the most important thing that we can do is find that sense of unity and harmony within ourselves, because that is how we can bring more unity and harmony to the collective. But it starts with us, it starts within us. If we are all, chaotic and frenzied and not at peace within ourselves, like that is the ripple effect that's being put out into the collective. So
Mhm.
that's especially where people may feel out of control. Like this is where we do have control. We always have control over, how we feel, or at least our ability to recognize that we're off and work to pull ourselves back into vibrational alignment and harmony.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I feel like that's why Spirit really wanted me to point out the galactic center in our charts, because that's the place where we raise that consciousness. That's the place where we, when we go towards it, we're working on coming into alignment, bringing ourselves into unity. And so all of these spaces, these topics where I've mentioned that you could lean towards, that's exactly kind of like the area to look that can help you bring yourself into that unity and alignment, because it's a natural place. I mean, obviously, in the full spectrum of life, we would love to be able to be in alignment with all the areas, right? But some days are harder than others.
Right.
And so I feel like Spirit wanted us to kind of know there's a place in your life that you can lean into that's more natural for you to lean into to help you come into balance, unity, and expansion.
Yeah, and to leverage those tools and skills, particularly around the areas where you're feeling the most pressure. And I
Mhm.
think that's the contrast that we need to pay attention to, right? Like where are we feeling this pressure? That's what's being called to change.
Right. And also, what I'm hearing is that another reason why Spirit wanted me to focus on this and not all the other aspects is because it's that concept of like thinking to create, right? So what we focus on becomes our reality. So let's focus on that we do have the ability to move out of this. We do have the ability to focus on growth and higher awareness, as opposed to just kind of like sitting in the muck. Because when you're overwhelmed, it's not hard to feel like you just want to sit in the muck.
Yeah.
But there is a place we can go, and I think that's where Spirit wants us to really think about, especially during this month of August, where um, it might just be a little bit more um, challenging to stay in alignment, especially this middle week.
Yeah,
Um,
so your point is well taken about being proactive in terms of where we can help ourselves with these challenges. If you are someone, I'm already thinking for myself, sometimes I'm in a place where I need to work harder to maintain my vibrational alignment than other times. And during those times, I will put myself through a morning practice that might be a little bit more lengthy, say, than some other times, right? So during a time like this, if I know it's going to be a little bit more challenging for me to stay aligned, I might start all of my days with a nice long breathwork session to really, or meditation, or, something to really support myself and that vibrational alignment. Because if we're only kind of going down throughout the day, we want to start our days as aligned as humanly possible. And that's a good rule of thumb for anybody to begin with, but especially during these times that might be a little bit more challenging. That's just a great way to really support ourselves energetically through it.
Absolutely. And I think in my situation, August, in my day job, August is a very busy month, always. By the end of August, I am typically struggling to stay in alignment, and in complete overwhelm, just trying to keep up with the demands of my day job in August. So knowing that already, I already had the plan of what things do I need to put in place to set myself up for success. And then I started looking at the energy of the month and went, oh, yeah, I need to like double down and really put some things in place because it's going to be beyond the typical as far as busy and pressure and demanding. And so, I already have in my mind, like having some meals prepped and having some appointments scheduled to, give myself some self-care and those type of things so that, not overbooking myself because it's going to be doubled down for me this August.
Yeah, that's great. So, just in wrapping up this amazing conversation, just remind everyone again that primary theme of the energies for this particular full moon, and any last tidbits or words of advice that you would leave people with.
So before I do that, I'm going to do Pisces because I haven't done them.
Oh, sorry, Pisces.
Don't want them to feel left out, and then I
Yes.
will do that.
Sorry. Okay.
So just Pisces, you are going to have this full moon in your 12th house, which is the subconscious, that place of dreams and intuition and retreat and escape. And so I would expect that it's a very heightened dream time for Pisces during this full moon time. Really listen to your dreams, really listen to your intuition. Your things are going to be lit up for you. That spirit is going to be saying, maybe we need to make a pivot here in order to keep you on your path to being your unique divine you. And where that release point is, it's very interesting to me because it's in your 10th house of careers and legacy and reputation. And so the Galactic Center is saying you can lead into that legacy that you want to share with the world, your unique creative gifts that you have. Lean into that when you want to release this tension of August. Lean into the unconventional, the unique you that you want to contribute to the collective. Okay, so I didn't want to leave Pisces out. And just to go back, the theme that Spirit gave me for this moon was, I'm going to read it exactly: restlessness and overcompensation for insecurities shift the collective consciousness. So we really focused on shifting consciousness. We really focused on where can you focus to release the restlessness and the overcompensation for insecurities, but just knowing that we are in a time where so much is going on that be easy on yourself. Emotional restlessness, mental restlessness, feeling insecure, like what the heck is going on? There's intention to this. The universe is always moving us towards growth. And so not only are we working towards shifting our own levels of consciousness, but this is a collective awakening. And I feel like this summer, this year, but really this month is playing a big role in the shift of collective consciousness. And this is the part we're playing.
Awesome. Well, I hope everybody got exactly what they needed from this episode. Thank you, everyone, as always, for listening. And you can catch Catherine and I again next month for the new and full moon updates. Until then, you can find more information about Catherine Ann and her services in the show notes. And we'll look forward to chatting with you all again. Bye for now.